Hello again, everybody. This is Steve again from RoboReviews.net, back with the first review on the site in over a year and a half. So let's just dive right into this one, shall we? This week's game is Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, a multi-directional shooter/adventure game. You take the helm of a saucer-like spacecraft piloted by a heroic space horror. A star in your solar system has been corrupted by an infectious living evil that threatens your home planet and the very survival of your species. It's up to you to travel to the star and cleanse it before the entire universe is completely shrouded in darkness. In this title, you travel around a vast world comprised of interconnected areas differing in appearance and theme. Within each area, you acquire a new power-up which will help you defeat a boss, get into the next area, and collect previously inaccessible collectibles in previous parts of the... Wait a minute. Where have I heard this before? Let me see that map again. And the power-ups? Oh, this is just Metroidvania! In a spaceship! This is far from a downside, of course, as this nod to older greats was seen as recently as 2009 in the critically acclaimed Shadow Complex, and that was essentially just Metroidvania starring Ryan Reynolds. Before I get into the juicy bits of this game and the new DLC Shadowhunters, I really quickly wanted to talk about the aesthetics. I truly cannot get over how much I love the style the developers chose for this game. The dark silhouetted elements in the world and the vibrant, colorful environment clash so wonderfully I wish I could just fly around infinitely while the artists painstakingly created more and more world for my amusement. Damn labor laws. The gorgeous visuals are further complemented by the ambiance of the soundtrack and even the sound effects. Something as subtle as the muted sound of your laser firing underwater or the saw blades tearing through weak rubble do wonders for immersing you into the twisted landscape. The enemies that litter any game like this can really hurt the gameplay if not done right. Luckily in this case, everything encountered not only looks great, but is very well designed and provide a great ongoing experience. As they reflect the style of the area you're in, the types of enemies and how to dispose of them not only differ from enemy to enemy, but also area to area. There are a couple of exceptions like the annoying shieldy weak spot guys and the fact that a lot of areas are best gotten through by just running past everything. But this is seen in any game of this genre, and overall the diversity in enemies seen here is what keeps the gameplay from getting stale. On the same page, the bosses were just as well put together. There wasn't one that I didn't have a blast taking care of, and the methods for disposal, usually hinted at by earlier puzzles, were delightfully creative. The puzzles that come up on occasion, though relatively simple to complete, are greatly enhanced by the use of your surroundings and in-game physics. This element allowed much more to be done with the genre than I've seen done in the past, like grabbing onto objects to avoid getting blown away, or tipping a massive teeter-totter with a large boulder. Though there was an enjoyable amount of this mechanic thrown into the game, I would have loved to have seen more done with it beyond the grabby arm. Maybe another physics utility that would allow you to weaponize any rocks or small enemies you encounter, sort of like the gravity gun in Half-Life 2. A tall order, I know, but it just sounds so cool in my head. The easier puzzles and a little creative exploration will net you some of the many collectibles hidden all over the planet. As in most games like this, you'll find heart piece-like fragments of upgrades for your weapons and armor, but in addition to those, you'll find pieces of concept art and artifacts that show bits of how the infectious evil came to be. While the upgrades are marked on the map from the start as points of interest, you'll actually have to do some searching for the rest. Fortunately, if there's an area you can't get into without a future upgrade, in this case the buzzsaw, you can scan the obstacle and it'll mark your map with the upgrade you need so you can come back later when you do have it. The backstory clips provided by collecting artifacts combine to make a nice 30-second video, but it along with 4 to 5 minutes of cinematic are all we get as far as a tangible story. Just the premise I mentioned at the beginning and a very predictable ending. The gameplay does an excellent job of reinforcing your technological superiority versus their biomechanical darkness as you play, but I really feel like this game had enormous potential to tell a much bigger and complex story. It's entirely possible that the developers had a vast backstory that they left vague for creative or budgetary purposes, but I personally think that it would have taken this already great game into something truly epic. Beyond the campaign, there are 2 multiplayer game modes. The first, Lantern Run, has you alone or with up to 3 friends each carrying a lantern as far as you can go through waves of enemies while being slowly chased by a massive wall of a creature. The second mode is the new DLC Shadowhunters. It's meant to pick up where the campaign left off, though don't worry about any spoilers. This mode has once again up to 4 players carrying a ticking time bomb into the center of an infected asteroid to destroy it. Of the 2 modes, I enjoyed Shadowhunters quite a bit more. The fact that there is only one thing to carry and the time limit is less horrifyingly stressful really help. There are also areas that allow you to fight a few waves of enemies to get upgrades for not only yourself but the bomb as well, making it less of a dead weight and more of a battle tank, helping you to breeze through each asteroid. At least that's what I have to assume is the case when playing with 4 players. You see, I only got a chance to play these modes in single and 2-player, and under those conditions I found them to be almost unplayably difficult. Let's take a look. The fundamental flaw of both modes is that the difficulty that makes them challenging for 4 players is entirely unchanged even if you're by yourself. This includes starting out with only 3 hit points and the worst weapon in the game. It was most prominent in Lantern Run, where this meant that just the two of us couldn't defeat all the enemies in time and would get steamrolled by the darkness in 2 minutes. Every single time. Shadowhunters, in addition to this same problem, had issues more with the stage design. If you're low on health or time, you want to take a risk for an upgrade, or just want to get to the end, there's always a direction to go. Unfortunately, there's no telling which direction that is. When you die, a different map is generated, and if you want to backtrack to get some health or revive your friend, you're in luck. No wait, not luck. What's the other one? Oh yeah, all the enemies respawn. Directly in your face. It almost makes me think they were going for a Demon Souls style approach, like, of course he's having fun, look at all of the controllers embedded in the drywall. The only problem is that the campaign was nowhere near that hard, putting these modes entirely at odds. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's bad. The 1 in 20-something tries that we got to play for more than 2 minutes was actually pretty fun. I feel like with a little retooling and more 1 to 2 player playtesting, the Shadowhunters experience could be so much fun! It just needs to be a little less difficult from the get-go and ramp up, or just be more consistent to be able to plan where you're going and what you need to do, like in, you know, Demon Souls. That being said though, the complaint that multiplayer isn't as fun if there aren't enough people can be said of just about any multiplayer game. And if I'm being completely fair, my only real complaint about this game is that there isn't enough of it. My first playthrough took me somewhere between 4 and 5 hours, that is collecting everything, and while capturing footage for this review I was able to beat it in less than 3. While I wish there had been more, I certainly don't think any less of the experience. I mean, just because I finished my cake in less than 3 bites doesn't mean it wasn't comprised of many rich layers. It just means that I'm terrible at metaphors, and I'm sure there's a Portal reference in there somewhere. I'd recommend this game to any fans of action-adventure games like Metroid, Castlevania, even Zelda. Also with the game's easy learning curve, anybody who wants to try out or get into these kinds of games. Of course, to all of you, I recommend that you head to roboreviews.net. We have a bunch more reviews there, and we absolutely plan to have at least one up a week. For reals this time. No more false promises. Thanks for watching. You're the best.